Listen, I want to keep talking about the Twitter files. I know that many of you are following the Twitter files, and I also want to make very clear what it is. It's right-wing bait. That's what it is. It's meant to get people who don't really know what's going on, or who don't actually read the Twitter files threads, or who simply are looking for something to be outraged about, to be outraged and to say, all the stuff we said was happening, and people need to go to jail or something bad needs to happen. So let's take a step back. We have now seen at least 3 releases of the Twitter files. The Twitter files are supposedly exclusive stories given to Matt Taibbi and Bari Weiss to tweet about, exposing everything that happened at Twitter. And it turns out that really not that much happened. For example, we learned that there was an effort being made in 2020 by the Biden campaign to have explicit images of Hunter Biden removed from the platform. Now, they were nude, explicit images of Hunter published without his consent. That's not allowed on Twitter per their own terms of service. And it's also against the law in most states to publish such images. And it was framed by some on the right as the Biden administration is censoring content on Twitter. Well, there was no Biden administration at the time, so cross that piece off. And they're not really censoring anything. They're asking that content in violation of Twitter's own policies be removed. It wasn't really a bombshell. As the Twitter files have continued coming out, more and more clear-thinking individuals have realized what many of us realized pretty quickly. Charlie Wurtzel writes about this in The Atlantic in an article I encourage you to read called "Elon Musk's Twitter Files Are Bait." He doesn't actually want transparency on the social media platform. And this is, of course, absolutely correct. The Twitter files expose no crimes that are clearly related to the actions Twitter took. I'm going to get to perjury in a second, and I have no interest in hiding anything from you. The emails I get, David, you're hiding this and that. I'm just a guy in a room with a microphone. I'm not hiding anything. We'll get to perjury. But the Twitter files expose no crimes with regard to Twitter's actions. And they don't even expose violations of Twitter's own terms of service. Twitter's own terms of service, if you want to read them, include a process for communicating content is violating Twitter's terms of service. It includes these very general catch-alls that these social media platforms can, at the end of the day, decide to moderate content however the hell they want, as long as they're not doing something like saying, we don't allow Christians to post. That would be against the law. But beyond that, all of these platforms can do this, and it's in their terms of service. Now, you can say you disagree with it, okay, but it's in their terms of service. So the point here is the Twitter files expose no crimes and no violations of Twitter's own terms of service. They are intended to play to the right-wing persecution complex. We're being censored. We're being silenced. We're not allowed to give the alternative perspectives on COVID or on drinking urine or on whatever it is that they want to do. When private businesses tell you, here's what we're doing in our terms of service, and you accept, and then they do it, there isn't very much to talk about. At worst, what we're learning is something we knew, which is Twitter does what Fox News does, right? If you want to accept the most heavy argument that could be made, which I don't believe is actually defensible based on data, but it would be Twitter is crafting a partisan message through their moderation and decisions. Well, that's what Fox News does. The difference being Twitter is a platform on which everybody gets to post, at least in principle. Fox News is broadcasting out one way. No connection between the Biden campaign and the suspension of Donald Trump on Twitter, which was a big thing that they had their hopes very high for. The most interesting part out of all of this to me is the part of the files that say the Trump administration, not campaign, apparently had the exact type of access to Twitter moderation, meaning they had email addresses they could email. So part of the controversy is that the Biden campaign, rather than reporting tweets the way you and I have to, had email addresses of people at Twitter that they could email and say, hey, take a look at this, take a look at that. You could argue that that's wrong. You could argue the Biden campaign should have had to use the same system we all have to use to report tweets. Fine. But the Twitter files also say that the Trump administration had the very same email access. Conservatives are silent about that part. Okay, let's now talk about maybe the one part that maybe is something. And I'm getting emails from people saying, David, you won't talk about this. Listen up, folks. Buckle in, because I'm talking about it. The one thing I can maybe find that would be under the umbrella of what we would call criminal is that there are now allegations that Jack Dorsey perjured himself, former CEO of Twitter, one of the instrumental early people. Jack Dorsey said to Congress under oath, Twitter isn't shadow banning people. According to the Twitter files, Twitter was shadow banning people, and that is perjury because Jack lied under oath. Let's take a look at the clip from that hearing years ago.
I want to read a few quotes about Twitter's practices, and I just want you to tell me if they're true or not.
Please.
Social media is being rigged to censor conservatives. Is that true of Twitter?
No.
I don't know what Twitter is up to. It sure looks like to me that they're censoring people, and they ought to stop it. Are you censoring people?
No.
Twitter shadow banning prominent Republicans. It's bad. Is that true?
No.
Okay. So Jack Dorsey said we are not shadow banning people. And it appears, based on some of the stuff that's been released, that Twitter was. So listen very carefully here. If Jack Dorsey perjured himself, and you can prove it, throw the book at him. Prosecute him. Do it. I don't care. If you can prove that the shadow ban screenshots released in the Twitter files are real, and that Jack Dorsey knew that there was shadow banning going on when he testified, right? Because that's part of it, perjury. Did you know that you were telling a lie? If you can prove those 2 points, then go ahead and prosecute him. I do want to remind you, however, Republicans spent 3 years during the Mueller probe saying, lying to Congress and lying to the FBI, that's all you can get? What about the underlying crimes? What about the collusion with Russia? What about this, that, or the other thing? Financial crimes. All you've got is lying under oath. That's the only thing. That's politically targeted. When all you have is lying, those are politically targeted prosecutions of Trump people. We shouldn't even be worried about that. Well, if you were saying that during the Mueller probe, then maybe you should be saying the same thing here. Notice I'm not saying that. I'm saying if he perjured himself, go after him. It doesn't relate to the type of criminality that they've been alleging Twitter engaged in. This is just a guy who maybe lied. Go after him for it, by all means. But remember that you all were the ones saying during the Mueller probe, when all you've got is lying, you know you've really got nothing.
When you're looking for a good documentary to watch, you scroll through Netflix and Hulu for a while. There aren't that many. You realize you've seen the good ones. What if I told you there's a streaming platform exclusively for documentaries with the best selection where you won't run out of top quality documentaries? That is Curiosity Stream, with a massive catalog of the newest and best documentaries, classic titles from years ago, exclusive content you can't find anywhere else. I just watched Pompeii, Disaster Street. I visited Pompeii in Italy before. I wish I had seen the documentary before visiting, because it was made very clear I missed a lot when I actually went to Pompeii. You can watch Curiosity Stream on all of your devices. They're always adding new titles, politics, philosophy, true crime, nature. They have everything. And my audience gets Curiosity Stream for under $2 a month when you go to curiositystream.com/Pacman and use the code Pacman. The link is down below.